Jake Morrison floated in his small ship as it moved toward Earth Station Alpha. He looked out the window at the huge metal station spinning slowly in space. Home. After 6 long months in the cold darkness between stars, he was finally coming home. His hands shook a little as he guided the ship into the docking bay. The mission had been harder than anything he had ever done before. 3 different alien races had been ready to go to war. The Kalari with their sharp teeth and red eyes, the peaceful Yun who just wanted to be left alone, and the proud Zathan, who thought all other races were beneath them. Jake had spent weeks talking to each group. He learned their languages. He ate their strange foods. He slept in their cities and flew in their ships. Slowly, very slowly, he helped them see that war would hurt everyone. It took months of careful words and patient listening, but finally, they agreed to peace. But the mission had cost him everything he loved. Jake touched the empty collar that hung from his belt. Buddy's collar. His dog had been with him for 8 years, through training on Earth, through his first missions to other worlds, through the lonely nights when space felt too big and empty. On the ice world of Kepler 7, the Zathan rebels had attacked their camp. Buddy had jumped in front of the energy blast meant for Jake. The brave little dog had saved his life, but Jake could not save Buddy. He buried his best friend under the purple snow of an alien world, far from the green fields, of Earth where Buddy used to run and play. The docking clamps locked onto his ship with a loud clang. Jake took a deep breath and opened the door. The station's air smelled like metal and recycling systems, but it was human air. It was home. "Lieutenant Morrison!" a voice called out. Jake turned to see Admiral Helen Carter walking toward him. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but everyone in the Earth Defense Force knew she was tougher than steel. Behind her walked 3 other officers Jake knew well. Captain Rick Stone, a big man with a loud laugh who had taught Jake how to pilot fighters. Commander Beth Clark, who had trained Jake in alien languages, and Dr. Mike Cooper, the station's head medical officer who always worried too much about everyone. "Admiral," Jake said, standing straight and giving a military salute. "None of that," Admiral Carter said with a smile. She stepped forward and hugged him like a mother hugging her son. "Welcome home, Jake. You did something amazing out there." The other officers gathered around him. Captain Stone slapped him on the back so hard Jake almost fell over. "You crazy kid! You stopped a 3-way war all by yourself." "The reports we got were incredible," Commander Clark added. "Learning 3 alien languages in just 2 months? I could not do that in 2 years." Dr. Cooper looked Jake up and down with worried eyes. "You lost weight, and you look tired. When did you last sleep?" Jake tried to smile, but it felt heavy on his face. "I'm okay, Doc. Just glad to be home." Admiral Carter saw something in his eyes. She had been a soldier for 40 years. She knew the look of someone who had lost something important. "Come on, Jake, let's go to my office. We need to talk." They walked through the station's busy hallways. People stopped what they were doing to look at Jake. Some pointed and whispered. Others smiled and nodded. Everyone had heard about the young lieutenant who had prevented a war that could have killed millions. Admiral Carter's office was quiet and comfortable. The walls showed pictures of Earth, green forests, blue oceans, white clouds. Jake sat in a soft chair and felt some of the tension leave his shoulders. "Tell me about Buddy," the Admiral said gently. Jake's throat felt tight. "He saved my life." "Ma'am, the Zathan rebels were using old Kalari weapons. Buddy must have smelled something wrong. He knocked me down just as they fired. The blast hit him instead of me." "I'm sorry, son. I know how much that dog meant to you." Jake nodded, not trusting himself to speak. Admiral Carter leaned forward. "Jake, what you did out there was beyond brave. It was brilliant. The Earth Defense Council has been talking about you for weeks. You saved 3 entire civilizations from destroying each other. You saved human colonies that would have been caught in the middle. You might have saved humanity itself." "I just did my job, ma'am?" "No, you did much more than that. Which is why the Council wants to give you a reward. Anything you want within reason. A promotion, your own ship, a research station, credits for your family back on Earth. Just name it." Jake was quiet for a long time. He thought about all the things he could ask for. A bigger ship would be nice. More credits would help his parents on their farm. But none of those things would help with the loneliness that ate at him during the long trips between stars. "I want a pet," he said finally. Admiral Carter blinked in surprise. "A pet?" "Yes, ma'am. Something like Buddy, but maybe tougher. Something that can handle space travel and different worlds. I know it sounds silly, but being alone out there for months, it's hard. Buddy made it easier. He was always happy to see me. Never judged me when I made mistakes. Just was there when I needed him." Admiral Carter smiled, and Jake thought he saw something mysterious in her eyes. "A companion. Yes, I think we can arrange that. In fact, I think the Council will be very interested in your request." "Really? It's not too much to ask?" "Not at all, Jake. You've earned it 100 times over. Give us a week to make arrangements. We'll have your new companion delivered to your quarters soon." Jake felt relief wash over him like warm water. "Thank you, Admiral. I really appreciate this. The Council meets tomorrow to discuss the details, but I can promise you'll have your companion very soon. And Jake, I think you're going to be very surprised by what we bring you." Something in her voice made Jake look at her carefully, but she was already standing up. The meeting was over. As Jake walked back to his quarters, he felt lighter than he had in months. Soon he would have a new friend to keep him company. Maybe a smart dog like Buddy, or one of those cat-like creatures from the Rigel system. Something loyal and brave that could share the long journey between stars. He had no idea that in 1 week his life would change in ways he could never imagine. 1 week later, Jake was fixing a broken light in his quarters when his door chimed. He looked at the time display on his wall. It was early morning, ship time. He was not expecting anyone. "Come in," he called out. The door slid open and Captain Lisa Wells stepped inside. She was a serious woman with short brown hair who worked in the transport division. Jake had met her a few times, but did not know her well. "Lieutenant Morrison, I have a delivery for you from the Earth Defense Council." Jake's heart jumped with excitement. His new companion had arrived. He had spent the whole week thinking about what kind of animal they might bring him. He had even bought special food containers and a comfortable sleeping pad. "That's great! Where is it? Did you bring it to the animal bay?" Captain Wells looked at him with a strange expression. "Actually, sir, your companion is in Transport Pod 7 in Docking Bay 3. I need you to come with me to receive the delivery personally." "Transport Pod 7? That seems like a big container for a pet. What kind of animal did they get me?" "You'll see when we get there, sir. Please follow me." They walked through the station corridors toward the docking bays. Jake noticed that Captain Wells seemed nervous about something. She kept checking her data pad and looking around like she was worried about something. "Captain, is everything okay? Is there a problem with my companion?" "No problem, sir. Everything is fine. It's just... well, you'll understand when you see." Docking Bay 3 was busy with workers moving cargo containers and checking ships. Captain Wells led Jake to a large white transport pod sitting in the center of the bay. It was much bigger than Jake had expected. Big enough to hold a horse or maybe one of those bear-like creatures from the forest worlds. "This is a really big container," Jake said, walking around the pod. "What exactly did they bring me?" Captain Wells took a deep breath. "Sir, before we open this, I need to explain something. The Earth Defense Council talked with several alien governments about your request. When they learned what you had done to prevent the war, one particular species wanted to honor you in their own way." "Okay. What species?" "The Valerians, sir. They're from a star system about 50 light years from here. Very advanced people. Very peaceful. They have a tradition of honoring great warriors and peacemakers." Jake was getting confused. "But I asked for a pet, not some kind of alien honor ceremony." "Yes, sir, I know. But the Valerians have a different understanding of the word companion. In their culture, when someone does something truly heroic, they offer one of their own people to serve as a lifelong partner and helper." Jake's blood went cold. "Wait. Are you telling me there's a person in that pod, an alien person?" "Yes, sir. Her name is Zara. She volunteered for this honor after learning about what you did. She's been in stasis for the journey, but she should be waking up soon." "This is crazy. I can't accept a person as a reward. That's like slavery." Captain Wells held up her hands. "No, sir. It's not like that at all. For the Valerians, this is the highest honor their society can give. Zara chose this. She studied your mission reports. She learned about human culture. She wanted to do this." Jake ran his hands through his hair. This was not what he had wanted at all. He had asked for a simple pet, something to keep him company during long missions, not an alien person who would depend on him. "Can we send her back?" "I don't want this. It's not right." "Sir, sending her back would be a terrible insult to her and her entire species. The Valerians would see it as rejection of their highest honor. It could damage relations between humans and Valerians for generations." Jake stared at the white pod. Inside was a living, thinking person who had given up her whole life to serve someone she had never met. The weight of responsibility felt crushing. "What am I supposed to do with her? I don't know anything about taking care of an alien." "The Valerians sent detailed information about her needs and abilities. She doesn't need special food or air. She can eat human food and breathe human air. And sir, she has some remarkable abilities that could be very helpful on your missions." "What kind of abilities?" "Enhanced strength. She can interface directly with computer systems using her mind. She has healing powers that can fix injuries. And she's trained in combat and survival skills." Jake felt overwhelmed. This was nothing like what he had wanted. A simple dog or cat would have been perfect. This was a complex, intelligent being with her own thoughts and feelings. "Is she awake yet?" Captain Wells checked her data pad. "Stasis cycle is completing now. She should wake up in the next few minutes." I don't know what to say to her. What? If she doesn't like me? What if I'm not the kind of person she expected? "Sir, she chose you based on your actions. She knows exactly who you are. The question is, are you willing to give this a chance?" Jake looked at the pod again. Through the small window, he could see a figure lying inside, still and peaceful. Whatever happened next would change his life forever. He could try to send her back and risk an interstellar incident, or he could accept this strange gift and see where it led. The pod made a soft humming sound. Lights began flashing on its control panel. The stasis cycle was ending. "She's waking up," Captain Wells said quietly. Jake's mouth was dry. His heart was beating fast. In a few moments, he would meet the alien woman who had chosen to dedicate her life to helping him. He had no idea what to expect. The pod's lid began to open with a soft hiss of escaping gases. Jake stepped closer, trying to prepare himself for whatever he was about to see. A hand appeared first, slender and graceful, with skin that seemed to shimmer with a soft blue light. Then an arm, then a shoulder. Jake held his breath as the most beautiful face he had ever seen emerged from the pod. She had smooth blue skin that seemed to glow from within. Her hair was silver and fell in soft waves around her shoulders. But it was her eyes that made Jake's breath catch in his throat. They were large and purple, filled with intelligence and kindness. She sat up slowly, looking around the docking bay with curiosity. When her eyes found Jake, she smiled, and her whole face lit up with joy. "You must be Jake Morrison," she said in perfect English, her voice musical and warm. "I am Zara of the Valerian people. I have come to serve as your companion." Jake could only stare. This was nothing like what he had expected. Nothing at all. Zara stood up gracefully, moving with the fluid motion of a dancer. She was tall, almost as tall as Jake, and wore a simple blue uniform that seemed to be made of some advanced material. "I know this must be surprising for you," she said, stepping out of the pod. "Captain Wells, thank you for bringing me safely. Here, you may go." Captain Wells nodded and walked away quickly, leaving Jake alone with his new companion. Jake started, then stopped. He had no idea what to say. Zara moved closer, studying his face with those amazing purple eyes. "You are troubled. This is not what you wanted. I asked for a pet," Jake said weakly. "Something simple, a dog or a cat." Zara tilted her head, considering this. "I understand. In human culture, pets are animals that provide companionship without the complexity of dealing with another intelligent being. But I am not a pet, Jake Morrison. I am a partner. If you will have me." Jake stood in his quarters, watching Zara look around at his things. She had been with him for 3 days now, and he still felt confused about the whole situation. The Earth Defense Council had given her the small room next to his, but she spent most of her time in his space, trying to learn about him. "This picture shows your family?" she asked, picking up a photo from his desk. "Yes, my parents and my sister Kate. They live on a farm on Earth." Zara studied the picture carefully. "They look happy. Your sister has the same eyes as you. Kind eyes." Jake felt uncomfortable when she said things like that. Zara had a way of looking right into people that made him nervous. She seemed to see everything, understand everything, even when he tried to hide his feelings. "Are you hungry?" he asked, changing the subject. "I was going to make some dinner. I do not require food at this time, but I would enjoy watching you prepare your meal. I am still learning about human customs." Jake went to his small kitchen and started making pasta. It was one of the few things he could cook well. As he worked, he felt Zara watching his every move. Not in a creepy way, but like she was trying to memorize how he did everything. "On Valeria, we eat mostly fruits and grains," she said. "But I have studied human nutrition. Pasta is made from wheat, which provides energy. You add vegetables and protein for balance." "You don't have to analyze everything I do," Jake said, a little annoyed. "Sometimes people just eat because they're hungry." Zara was quiet for a moment. When Jake looked at her, she seemed sad. I apologize. I am trying too hard to understand you. On my world, companions are expected to know everything about their partner. What they like, what they need, how they think. But perhaps humans prefer more distance? Jake felt bad for snapping at her. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be rude. It's just, this is all very strange for me. I've never had someone watch me so closely before. Except for Buddy, Zara said softly. Jake stopped stirring the pasta. What? Your dog. He watched you closely, too. He knew when you were sad or happy or worried. He knew what you needed without you having to ask. That is what I am trying to do, but I am not doing it well. Jake turned to look at her. Zara was sitting at his small table, her hands folded in her lap. Her silver hair caught the light from his ceiling panels, making it shimmer like water. How? Do you know about Buddy? I read all your mission reports before I came here, the ones that mentioned him. You wrote about how he always knew when you needed comfort after a difficult day, how he would bring you his favorite toy when you were sad, how he slept by your bed when you had nightmares. Jake's throat felt tight. He had written those reports for official records, never thinking anyone would read them carefully enough to understand what Buddy had meant to him. I thought if I could learn to do the same things, you might not miss him so much, Zara continued. But I am not a dog. I cannot simply curl up at your feet and make you feel better. I do not know how to be what you need. Jake sat down across from her. For the first time since she had arrived, he really looked at her. Not at her strange blue skin or her beautiful face, but at her eyes. He saw uncertainty there, and something that looked like loneliness. Why did you really volunteer for this? He asked. Zara was quiet for a long time. On Valaria, we believe that every person has a purpose. Some are meant to be teachers. Some are meant to be builders. Some are meant to be leaders. I always felt that my purpose was to help someone do great things. When I read about what you did, stopping that war, saving all those lives, I knew you were the person I was meant to help. But you don't even know me. I know that you spent 6 months alone in space, talking to people who hated each other, never giving up until you found a way to make peace. I know that you risked your life to save others. I know that you loved your dog so much that losing him still hurts you every day. Those things tell me who you are. Jake's pasta was getting cold, but he didn't care. What if I'm not the hero you think I am? What if I'm just a regular person who got lucky? Zara smiled, and Jake felt his heart skip a beat. Then I will help you be the hero you can become. Before Jake could respond, his door chimed. He got up to answer it and found Admiral Carter standing in the hallway. Admiral, please come in. Admiral. Carter stepped inside and nodded politely to Zara. Miss Zara, I hope you're settling in well. Very well, thank you. Jake has been most kind. Good. Jake, I need to speak with you. We have a situation that requires your skills. Jake felt his stomach tighten. What kind of situation? Human colonists. On Nexus Prime are under attack. A group called the Saurak Empire has been raiding their settlements for weeks. The colonists are requesting help, but it's a delicate situation. The Saurak claim the humans stole their land. Sounds like another diplomatic mission. Exactly. We need someone who can talk to both sides and find a peaceful solution. You leave in 2 days. Jake nodded, then realized something. What about Zara? This could be dangerous. Maybe she should stay here. Admiral Carter looked surprised. Jake, she's your companion. She goes where you go. That's the whole point. But she's not trained for combat missions. She could get hurt. Zara stood up, and Jake was surprised to see anger flash in her purple eyes. I am not a fragile flower, Jake Morrison. I have been trained in combat since I was a child. I can fight, better than most humans. I didn't mean to insult you. I just don't want you to get hurt because of me. And I do not want you to get hurt because you are worried about protecting me instead of focusing on the mission. Admiral Carter looked back and forth between them with amusement. If I may interrupt this argument, Miss Zara is right. The Valerians don't send their people out unprepared. She has abilities that could be very useful on this mission. What kind of abilities? Jake asked. Zara walked over to Jake's computer terminal. She placed her hand on the screen, and suddenly the display began showing information much faster than normal. Numbers and charts flashed by at incredible speed. I can interface directly with computer systems, she said. I can process data much faster than any human. I can also do this. She touched Jake's arm gently. Immediately, he felt a warm sensation spread through his body. The small cut on his hand from fixing the broken light last week disappeared completely. Healing touch, she said simply. And I am stronger than I look. To demonstrate, she picked up Jake's heavy metal desk with one hand and held it over her head like it weighed nothing. Jake stared at her in amazement. Why didn't you tell me about this before? You did not ask. And you seemed to want me to be more like a pet than a partner. Pets do not usually have special abilities. Admiral Carter chuckled. I think you two have some things to work out, but you'll have plenty of time to do that on the way to Nexus Prime. Jake, report to Docking Bay 5 at 0800 tomorrow for mission briefing. Miss Zara, make sure he doesn't do anything stupid. After the Admiral left, Jake and Zara sat in awkward silence for a while. I'm sorry, Jake said finally. I've been treating you like a burden instead of appreciating what you're trying to do. And I am sorry for expecting you to understand me immediately. Perhaps we can start over? Jake stood up and held out his hand. Hi, I'm Jake Morrison. I understand you're going to be my partner. Zara smiled and shook his hand. Her skin was warm and incredibly soft. Hello, Jake Morrison. I am Zara. I am looking forward to working with you. As they shook hands, Jake felt something he hadn't felt since Buddy died. Hope. Maybe this strange situation could actually work out. Maybe having a partner would be even better than having a pet. He just hoped. They both survived long enough to find out. The starship Horizon cut through space toward the troubled world of Nexus Prime. Jake stood on the bridge, looking at the planet growing larger on the main screen. It looked peaceful from space, with blue oceans and green continents. But he knew that down on the surface people were fighting and dying. Captain Ryan, what's our current status? Jake asked the ship's commander. Captain Ryan was a calm man with gray hair who had been flying ships for 20 years. We'll reach orbit in 6 hours, Lieutenant. The colonists are holding their main settlement, but they've lost 3 outer farms to Saurak attacks. Zara stood beside Jake, studying the tactical displays. Over the past week of travel, she had proven herself to be incredibly useful. She could process information faster than the ship's computers and had already found patterns in the Saurak attack schedules that the human analysts had missed. The Saurak are not attacking randomly, she said, pointing to the display. Look at the timing. They strike every 3 days, always at dawn, always from the east. This suggests they have a base somewhere in the eastern mountains. Good catch, Captain Ryan said with respect. Jake noticed that the crew had quickly learned to listen to Zara's insights. Her alien perspective often revealed things that humans missed. "What do we know about Saurak psychology?" Jake asked. Zara closed her eyes for a moment, accessing the vast database she had memorized. They are a proud warrior culture. Honor is more important to them than life. They believe that strength should rule over weakness. But they also have a strong sense of justice. If they believe they have been wronged, they will fight until they die, or their honor is restored. So the key is figuring out what they think. The colonists did wrong. Exactly. If we can address their grievance, we might be able to avoid more bloodshed. Suddenly, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The bridge lights flashed red. "Captain!" called out Lieutenant Danny Rodriguez from the communications station. "We're receiving a distress signal from the colony. They're under attack right now." Captain Ryan moved quickly to his command chair. "How long until we're in range to help?" 2 hours, sir." "Too long. They'll be overrun by then." Jake felt the familiar weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. People were dying while he stood safely on a ship in space. He had to do something. "Captain, can we launch a shuttle? Get down there faster?" The shuttle would take just as long, and it would be defenseless against Saurak fighters. Zara suddenly grabbed Jake's arm. "There is another way. The escape pods." "What?" "That's crazy. The pods aren't designed for atmospheric entry during combat." "Not normally. But I can interface with the pod systems, guide it down safely. We could reach the surface in 30 minutes. Captain Ryan looked shocked. "Miss Zara, that's incredibly dangerous. If something goes wrong, you'd both be killed." "If we do nothing, the colonists will be killed," Jake said. "It's worth the risk." "I can do this, Jake," Zara said firmly. "Trust me." Jake looked into her purple eyes and saw complete confidence. Over the past week, she had never let him down. If she said she could do it, he believed her. "Prep an escape pod," he told Captain Ryan. "We're going down." 10 minutes later, Jake and Zara were strapped into escape pod number 3. It was cramped and uncomfortable, designed only to keep people alive until rescue arrived. Using it to land on a planet during a battle was not what the builders had in mind. "Pod systems online," Zara said, her hand pressed against the control panel. Jake watched in amazement as her fingers seemed to glow where they touched the metal. "I have control of navigation, heat shields, and landing thrusters." "Are you sure about this?" Zara smiled at him. "Jake Morrison, in the past week you have taught me that sometimes the right thing to do is also the crazy thing to do. Now I will teach you that sometimes crazy plans work." "Pod launch in 10 seconds, came Captain Ryan's voice over the radio. "Good luck, you two." The pod shot out of the ship like a bullet. Jake felt his stomach drop as they fell toward the planet below. Through the small window, he could see the surface rushing up at them at terrifying speed. "Heat shields activated," Zara said calmly. "Adjusting entry angle. Everything is working perfectly." Jake was amazed at how calm she seemed. Her eyes were closed, her face peaceful, as if she was dancing instead of plummeting toward possible death. "How are you so relaxed about this?" "Because I trust my abilities, and because I am with you. If we die together, trying to save innocent people. There is honor in that." The pod shook violently as it hit the atmosphere. Outside, Jake could see flames licking at the windows as they cut through the air. But Zara's guidance was perfect. They were heading straight for the colony. "Colony in sight," Zara said. "I can see the battle. The Saurak have surrounded the main settlement. The colonists are trapped. Can you set us down behind the Saurak? Lines?" "Already planned for that." landing in 30 seconds. The pod's thrusters fired, slowing their descent. They hit the ground hard, but not hard enough to hurt them. Jake quickly opened the hatch, and they climbed out into the alien world. Nexus. Prime smelled like pine trees and rain. The air was thick and humid. In the distance, Jake could hear the sounds of battle. Energy weapons firing, people shouting, explosions. "This way," Zara said, pointing toward a hill overlooking the colony. "We need to see the full situation before we act." They climbed quickly through the thick forest. Jake was impressed by how silently Zara moved. She seemed to glide between the trees like a ghost. When they reached the top of the hill, they could see the entire battle laid out below them. The human colony was a cluster of white buildings surrounded by farm fields. About 50 Saurak warriors had it surrounded. They were tall, lizard-like creatures with green scales and powerful tails. They carried energy rifles and moved with military precision. "The colonists are outnumbered 3-1, Jake observed. "But the Saurak are not pressing their attack," Zara pointed out. "See how they maintain distance? They could overrun the Bay colony easily, but they are holding back." "Why?" Jake studied the scene more carefully. Zara was right. The Saurak seemed to be waiting for something. Maybe they want the colonists to surrender. Maybe they don't actually want to kill them. That would fit with their honor code. If they can win without unnecessary bloodshed, they would prefer that. Then maybe I can talk to them. Before Zara could stop him, Jake stood up and began walking down the hill toward the Saurak lines. Behind him, he heard Zara curse in her own language and follow. "Jake Morrison," she called in a loud whisper. "What are you doing?" "Something crazy that might work," he called back. The first Saurak to see them was a large warrior with scars on his face. He raised his rifle and shouted something in the Saurak language. Within seconds, a dozen weapons were pointed at Jake and Zara. Jake raised his hands to show he was unarmed. "I am Lieutenant Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. I want to speak with your commander." The scared warrior tilted his head, surprised that Jake spoke his language. After a moment, he gestured for them to follow. They were led to a larger Saurak wearing decorative armor. This had to be the commander. He looked at Jake with intelligent yellow eyes. "You are the human peacemaker," the commander said in accented English. "I have heard of you. Why do you come here?" "To understand why you are fighting these people, and to see if we can find a solution that honors both sides." The commander studied Jake for a long moment. "You interest me, human." "Very well. I will explain our grievance. But know that if you cannot offer justice, we will take it by force." Jake nodded. "I understand. Tell me what happened." For the next hour, Jake listened as the Saurak commander explained their side of the story. Zara stood beside him, occasionally whispering translations when the commander used words Jake didn't know. The situation was more complex than the initial reports had suggested. The humans had legally bought the land from the planetary government. But the government had not consulted with the Saurak tribes who had considered it sacred ground for generations. So this is not really about the land, Jake realized. It's about respect. The humans came and built on the graves of our ancestors without asking permission, the commander said angrily. They showed no respect for our ways or our history. Jake looked at Zara. She nodded slightly, understanding what he was thinking. What if the humans formally apologized and asked permission to stay? What if they built a memorial to honor your ancestors? The commander considered this. Words are easy. Human. How do I know they mean what they say? Because I will personally guarantee it. If they break their word, you can hold me responsible. Zara grabbed his arm. Jake, do you understand what you are promising? I'm promising to do whatever it takes. To keep the peace! The commander smiled, showing sharp teeth. You would risk your own honor for people you barely know? That's what peacemakers do. The battle for Nexus Prime ended not with weapons, but with words. Jake spent the rest of the day helping the colonists and the Saurak work out an agreement. The humans would build a beautiful memorial garden on the sacred ground. The Saurak would help protect the colony from other threats. As the sun set, Jake and Zara sat on the hill overlooking the peaceful settlement. You did well today, Zara said softly. We did well. I couldn't have understood their position without your help. Is this what it feels like? Being partners? Jake smiled. Yeah, I think it. 6 months had passed since the mission to Nexus Prime. Jake stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the tactical display show the largest fleet he had ever seen. Hundreds of ships filled the darkness of space, all belonging to something, called the Void Syndicate. Sir, we're receiving reports from 3 different star systems. Lieutenant Danny Rodriguez called out from his station. The Syndicate is attacking all of them at the same time. Admiral Carter's voice came through the communication system from Earth Station Alpha. Jake, we need you and Zara to coordinate the defense of all 3 systems. You're the only team with enough experience to handle something this big. Jake felt the weight of responsibility, but not the crushing fear he used to feel. Having Zara beside him had changed everything. Over the past 6 months, they had completed 12 successful missions together. They had stopped 3 wars, rescued colonists from 5 different disasters, and become the most famous human-alien partnership in the galaxy. Zara, what do you think? He asked. Zara stood at the navigation console, her hands pressed against the controls. Her silver hair seemed to glow as she interfaced with the ship's computer systems. I am analyzing all available data on the Void Syndicate forces. They are using a 3-pronged attack strategy. They expect us to split our forces and defend, each system separately. But that's not what we're going to do, is it? Zara smiled. No, we are going to do something they will not expect. Captain Ryan looked worried. What do you have in mind? We only have 30 ships against their 300. We don't fight all 300 at once, Jake said, understanding Zara's plan immediately. We use their own strategy against them. Zara nodded. Exactly. The Syndicate forces are spread across 3 systems. Each group thinks they have overwhelming numbers. But if we move fast enough, we can hit each group while they are separated from the others. That would require perfect timing and coordination, Captain Ryan said. Which is why Jake and I will command from 3 different locations, Zara explained. I will take a small fleet to the Rigel system. Jake will command the defense of the Vega system. Our main fleet will hit the Syndicate forces at Alpha Centauri. Jake stared at her. We'll be separated? We've never done that before. Zara walked over to him and took his hand. Over the months, they had grown comfortable with small touches like this. It helped them stay connected during stressful missions. Jake Morrison, 6 months ago, you were afraid to let me come on one dangerous mission. Now you trust me to command an entire fleet on my own? Jake realized she was right. His first instinct was still to protect her, but he had learned to trust her abilities. Zara was not just his partner anymore. She was one of the best tactical minds in the Earth Defense Force. You're right. If anyone can pull this off, it's you. And if anyone can inspire people to fight against impossible odds, it's you, she replied. 3 hours later, Jake found himself on the bridge of the destroyer Valiant, leading 10 ships toward the Vega system. Through the communication system, he could hear Zara's voice as she coordinated her own fleet. "Zara to Jake," her musical voice said. "I am in position at Rigel. The Syndicate fleet here consists of 80 ships. They have not detected my approach." "Jake to Zara," he responded. "I count 90 ships at Vega. Captain Ryan reports 130 at Alpha Centauri. Everyone ready?" "Ready," came Zara's voice. "Ready," came Captain Ryan's voice. "All fleets, begin attack in 3, 2, 1, now!" The next hour was the most intense of Jake's life. The space around Vega erupted in explosions and energy beams as his small fleet engaged the much larger Syndicate force. But Jake had learned a lot about tactics from Zara. Instead of meeting the enemy head-on, he used hit-and-run attacks, striking fast and then retreating before the Syndicate could bring their full firepower to bear. "Zara, status report," he called. "During a brief break in the fighting, I have destroyed 30 enemy ships and am retreating to the asteroid field as planned. The Syndicate commander here is very angry. He is chasing me with his entire fleet, just as we hoped." Jake smiled despite the danger. Zara's plan was working perfectly. By making the enemy angry, she was drawing them away from their defensive positions. "Captain Ryan, how are you doing at Alpha Centauri?" "Taking heavy damage, but we're holding them. The Syndicate seems confused. They keep trying to call for reinforcements, but their other fleets are too busy chasing you two to help." For the next 2 hours, Jake and Zara led the enemy fleets on a wild chase through space. They used every trick they had learned. Hiding in gas clouds, using planetary gravity to boost their speed, coordinating attacks through asteroid fields where larger ships couldn't follow. But Jake could see that his fleet was taking damage. They couldn't keep this up much longer. "Jake," Zara's voice came through the communication system. "I think it is time for the final phase of our plan." "Agreed. All fleets converge on Alpha Centauri. Operation Thunderstrike is go." What happened next would be talked about in military academies for years to come. Instead of continuing to run, all 3 human fleets suddenly turned and raced toward the Alpha Centauri system. The Syndicate forces, confused and angry from hours of chasing, followed them right into a trap. Captain Ryan's fleet had been busy while Jake and Zara led their chases. They had set up a defensive grid around the system's largest planet, turning asteroids into weapons platforms and positioning their ships for maximum advantage. When the 3 Syndicate fleets converged on Alpha Centauri, expecting to finally corner their enemies, they instead found themselves flying into a carefully prepared ambush. The human forces attacked from all sides, using the confusion to devastating effect. The battle was over in 30 minutes. The Void Syndicate, faced with coordinated resistance instead of the scattered defense they had expected, surrendered rather than see their entire fleet destroyed. Jake stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the enemy ships power down their weapons. Around him, his crew was cheering. Through the communication system, he could hear similar celebrations from the other ships. "Jake," Zara's voice came through, calm as always, but with a note of happiness. "We did it." "No," Jake said, smiling. "We did it." 2 weeks later, Jake and Zara stood on the observation deck of Earth Station Alpha, looking out at the stars. The victory celebration had finally ended, and they had some quiet time together. "I have been thinking," Zara said softly. "About what?" "About the day I first met you. You were so unhappy about my arrival. You wanted a simple pet to keep you company, not a complicated alien partner." Jake laughed. "I was an idiot." I had no idea what I really needed. And what did you really need? Jake turned to look at her. The starlight made her silver hair shimmer and her blue skin glow softly. Over the months, he had grown to think she was the most beautiful person in the galaxy, inside and out. I needed you, he said simply. Not a pet. That would just keep me. Company. I needed a partner who would challenge me, support me, and help me be better than I thought I could be. Zara smiled, and Jake felt his heart speed up the way it always did when she looked at him like that. There is something I must tell you, she said. Something I have never told you about why I really volunteered to be your companion. What? The official reason was to honor your heroic deeds, and that was true. But there was another reason. When I read your mission reports, when I learned about your courage and kindness and determination to help others, I fell in love with who you were before I ever met you. Jake's breath caught in his throat. Zara, I know it sounds foolish, falling in love with someone you have never met. But Valerians feel emotions very deeply. When I read about how you risked everything to save people you had never met, how you grieved for a loyal animal, how you never gave up even when everything seemed hopeless, I knew you were the person I wanted to spend my life with. Jake reached out and took her hands. Her skin was warm and soft, and he could feel a slight tingle where they touched. It was one of her abilities he had never fully understood. It doesn't sound foolish at all, he said, because I think I've fallen in love with you too. Zara's purple eyes widened with surprise and joy. Really? Really? You're brave and smart and kind. You've saved my life more times than I can count. You make me want to be a better person. And when I imagine the future, I can't picture it without you in it. They moved closer together, and Jake felt that same sense of rightness he had felt during their best missions. This was how it was supposed to be. Not a human and his pet, but two partners who chose to face the universe together. So what happens now? Zara asked. Now we keep doing what we do best. Explore the galaxy. Help people who need help. Stop wars before they start. Face whatever comes next as a team. Partners? Partners, Jake confirmed. As they stood together looking out at the infinite stars, Jake thought about how much his life had changed. He had asked for a simple pet to ease his loneliness. Instead, the universe had given him something infinitely better. A true partner who had chosen to stand with him not out of duty or programming, but out of love. Behind them, Earth Station Alpha hummed with activity as ships came and went, carrying people to new worlds and new adventures. But Jake was content to stand here with Zara, planning their next mission together. Where should we go next? Zara asked. Wherever the galaxy,